Business is a presentation by the New York Public Library of their plans for 504 Main Street with some focus on the exterior.
Right. I'm Christian Yule from Smith Miller Rockets and Architects. I'm working for the library to design their new branch library, Roosevelt Island. Just orientation, this is Main Street, and you guys maybe know this site. This is this old school building. The ground floor is primarily the library. You can see there's the sort of courtyard here, and then obviously the community centers on the back side.
Do you want questions as you go along, or?
I'm comfortable with that. If you have something you want to ask.
Just that you say primarily library. Is there something else going in with it?
Okay, so we're the first floor tenant. So there's a second floor tenant, and then there's the existing community center that are going to be in the building. Right now, the ground floor and the second floor are vacant.
So you primarily, the entire first floor is going to be
the entire first floor is library.
And that's about, what, 7,000 feet?
It's about 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
We have looked at the original architect, who we're very big fans of, and we're very honored to be able to work on this building. It's an incredible space, and this is actually the original master plan site. I mean, obviously you guys know that all of these were these small public spaces, so we're really interested in the idea that there's this public program going back into one of these spaces. This is a picture we found that's of the building when it was complete. Originally, it doesn't look that much different than it does today. This is a picture that we took recently, except some painting, and then I think everybody's seen that the first floor windows have been replaced. This is a picture of the courtyard and the playground, which is obviously purpose-built for that small school. I mean, one of the small issues is that obviously the library would like to use the space. Right now it's in a bit of disrepair, but we're hoping that in some way, through this renovation, we can engage this space and use it for sort of community purpose. And so it's just one small point that is ancillary to our design that we wanted to bring up. So the question that we're really looking at today is the location of the entrance. I think some time ago it was determined that an entrance would be made. This is not an original door, but a door that's been added from the original design to the location on the south here as the main entrance to the library. And looking at the design, now that we've kind of been fully engaged and are looking at the space, we believe that, that it's possible that a different entrance location could actually benefit the sort of presence of the library in on Roosevelt Island, and we could also still use the secondary entrance for a community room that the library would have. So those two things would be basically put out onto the street. So that's essentially the one thing I've come to present today, that is the primary request. So this is still another existing picture of that south entry. You can see as you're coming up the sidewalk from the subway. This is actually a picture toward the north corner, and the northeast corner is the location that we're looking at, and I'll show you some renderings of that and some plans of how we think that might be done.
Can I just ask?
Yeah, sure.
The doorways, they are going to be accessible for people in wheelchairs?
They will. Both, yes, the entrance and the ADA is accessible. This is looking on a more snowy day, back toward that northeast entrance. As you guys may or may not know, there's a series of plantings here out in front. This is where the bus stop is. Obviously, a lamppost, tree. This is the entrance that actually is original to the building. When this is school, you go back into this portico, you take a right, and you go into the space that way. That entrance is going to be used by the second floor tenant, and we are going to try to, obviously being a public library, we want to be present on the street so that people from both directions can kind of see the library and also see into the library. We feel the building, the one problem with it is the frequent mullions make it difficult to see into it. Lack of transparency, basically.
Like if there's an elevator and a stairway just inside that door there, will they remain?
Everything will remain inside that. We're, in fact, I get to the plans here. So that's a without snow picture of that courtyard going back. You can see the paving is sort of consistent across the sidewalk. There's a small curb that kind of mitigates the space, and everything that we are doing would be inside of this actual face of that curb. So not on the sidewalk in any way, but actually more toward the property itself. This is just a close-up picture, because I know that, I know sidewalk space is an issue. And so we wanted to be sort of upfront and show that we've done some work and we're trying to figure out the actual feet and inches of how this might work. And this is, as you can see, it's got a lot of features for the sidewalk, the tree pit. There's a narrow space here, and then obviously the yellow is where the bus stops. So it's, you can see the dimension of that sidewalk here. Looking straight on at that space again. So this is a sort of plan, again, Main Street, high rise across the street here, the playground. This is an early plan of the space. Basically, the space is really just one large space, but it's these sort of small lobes that come off of the end. We've kind of purposed for different parts of the library function. This is actually a community room right here. We're trying to, again, pull that to the front so that it's visible, not only from people coming into the library, but then from people on the street so they can advertise events, and that can be kind of a part of Roosevelt Island community. Back here, this is an actual children's room. We thought that one would make a better spot. It's sort of towards the south, has more windows so the sunlight can come into that room. And also it's a semi-protected, it's not toward the entrance, but back, you know, so security-wise it can be monitored. The two red, or rather pink, I guess, features are the entrance that we're going to talk about. One of these, I think, is already planned. This is a kind of ramp that comes off. And this is when we were planning on this being the sole entrance to the building. We think that it's possible that the branch could benefit from both of these entrances being treated this way, but these improvements would not necessarily be required if this particular entrance was done in the way that we're proposing. So it's something we're sort of looking at the moment, but right now we're showing both. So there'd be a ramp coming off, and there would be a stair coming this direction off that corner, and then there would be another entrance up here, which we're going to focus on in a second here, that shows the ramp. So this is that south entry, and just to get a closer look at the dimensions of it, two stairs here, a ramp here, and some trench drains that take the drainage away and create a kind of platform for the entrance, and pretty straightforward with a little bit of triangle new landscaping here. And this would all be the existing landscaping over here.
When you say stairs, how many stairs? I'm thinking it's very flat and you guys are on the first floor. What are the stairs?
So there is a small elevation change of 10 inches between here and here. So it needs to be mitigated by basically two steps. So we're only trying not to do one step, and obviously it's a little bit over, so you're gonna get two small steps. So that would be just in this.
I was thinking a whole staircase, but it's really just a couple steps.
Because the grade is actually higher here in at the south, and then is kind of descending in a very gradual way toward the north. So here you're a little bit like 1 foot 2 up. Here you're 10 inches up. So the ramp would mitigate that 1 foot 2 from that direction. And this is actually not our proposal. This is something that was, I think, previously proposed. It is actually, I believe, drawings have been done by another architect. We're showing it to show the sort of full picture of you know, what we're.
So that might not be the community space when you're done.
Well, no. So this would be, not to confuse. This is the entrance. This would still be the community space. And one of the features that is nice about the two doors on the street is that the library has the opportunity to allow people to come into the community room for maybe evening events through this door. So that's one of the nice kind of features of the building, is it has that long elevation on Main Street.
Are those two half moon things, doors that open?
Yes, those are, sorry. So two main doors
Not
here.
those, the ones on the top wall.
These guys?
Yeah.
Oh, those, yes. So this is just to sort of talk about the design inside the library a bit. We have, you know, a flexible seating area here, some storage along the wall here, a window into the courtyard on this side, a window to the exterior on this side, and then this is actually a glass partition that within the library you can always see what's going on in the library. And then these are two doors that can be propped open, so that the library being small, the community room is a purpose-built space. It needs to be flexible enough so that people could go use it as a reading room during the day if there wasn't an event. And so we're trying to make it as transparent as possible.
What is the square footage of that room?
That room's around, I'd say 650 square feet.
Oh, that's a New York apartment.
Yeah.
Two bedroom.
Studio, it's a studio apartment. It was
Yes,
my
it
one
is. It's
apartment.
generous space, actually. And the way that the geometry of the building kind of lends to that kind of long central space being used as a library and then having this lobe sort of out that can be partitioned.
I'm Dave Holoko with the New York Public Library. And I'd point out also that our intent is for people visiting the community room even after hours to be able to use the bathroom inside the branch.
Oh, great.
So the interior of the library would be made open even though it's not officially during operating hours. So people can use it, which means that this entrance isn't actually critical, that people could enter after library hours through the main library entrance since they're going to be circulating within the library anyway.
So if they came in here, they could come in. This is the bathrooms currently are back there, but these doors, obviously, they could come in and out that way too.
But I think after hours, for security purposes, you wanna keep it as contained as possible. So-
Yeah, except the bathrooms are open.
Well, I know, but I mean, if it's just, if we're all going
It's a
to use through
specific
one
room.
entrance, one person goes to the restroom, that's one thing, but if people can come in from both sides, it's a little less control over it.
You know what?
You're not worried.
It's the library's problem.
In mine.
I think it would become our problem
Yes.
if it got abused.
No, it's
so.
true, yes. Yes.
I'm wondering, there's a community garden behind the library. Would you have any impact on?
Oh, you mean these spaces here?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in early stages of design. We have noticed that the community garden is there. Obviously, that's all kind of public space. I think that the librarian was excited that the proximity to that there could be some educational opportunities for kids.
For sure.
And so we're also excited about that idea as well, just because it looks, at least even in the original plans, that this is all still original. That was the purpose of those spaces. So anything that kind of reifies and makes that sustains that idea, I think is a great idea. So. The details of that, though, I think are definitely still to be worked out. I mean, especially the playground area. I mean, there are some issues right now, just the condition of it. We're trying to grapple with how you can maybe make small improvements to make it safe for kids and that kind of stuff. So, just looking at it. So this is the entrance that we're proposing, which is essentially a vestibule. It's simply removing the window that is in this corner. We would be replacing it with a kind of frameless glass system in order to get more transparency into the branch. The door would actually be on this face with a ramp that comes from that existing entry court down, this is the difference in grade from here is only 2.5 inches to the entrance instead of the larger kind of grade change in the bottom. So it'd be a very slight ramp with there'd be no need for a railing or anything because of this very short grade. We'd be putting a book drop here in this entry off the sidewalk. Sidewalk would remain unchanged. This is that line of the curb, and we're looking to kind of get a synergistic relationship with the environment. So we're meaning the surrounding environment. We know the bus stop's there. We're interested in that, and also the idea that patrons could, in waiting for somebody to come in or in leaving, would be able to sit down. So we've kind of proposed a seat bench here that actually mitigates this curve and sort of pops up along this area that could be used by people waiting for the bus, or could be used by people that are coming into the branch.
No, but to be clear, the seat bench doesn't extend beyond the curve.
It does not. So it's, as you can see, it sort of maintains that line and has actually a recess area underneath that, you put your feet on, or a lighting or something like that. So, and then that would also mean that we'd probably do something to kind of refresh some of the planning here, but hoping that this wall of glass here actually becomes a kind of display window out onto the street. That's another kind of aspect of the design that we're interested in.
Where's the door? Where's the current door?
The current door, there is no door at this location. So
Oh, that's on the corner of the building.
that
Right.
is on the corner of the building. So
Yeah.
so the one that we were talking about before is
Yeah,
around
that's
back
over there.
here.
Okay. Sorry.
This is an existing tree. We've kind of drawn these existing bushes, and I would assume we would try to refresh some of that as well. We did put on here, I mean, one operational issue with the libraries around the city that you may have seen or not seen is the fact that there are a lot of people that come here with kids and they have strollers. We were puzzling about how to work that, like a stroller parking corral kind of within branch. We also noticed that this entry court, which is not shown here as being very large, but if you go back here, you can kind of see where that door happens. This area is actually quite big, and so we were thinking that it would be, you know, a perfect place if somebody was willing to put their stroller outside, that we could provide something that would just, you know, keep that tidy. But that's I think a hopeful
In
proposal.
the current library, they leave their strollers in that little entryway. You have 5 or 6 strollers and you try
Right,
to get in.
right. They end up in here or in here, and that's also showing interior, because we know we have to have, it can get quite voluminous when there are story times and stuff. So we know we have to accommodate some in the branch. We're noticing that in that area we have kind of a lot of the space. It's actually off the sidewalk, so it wouldn't be impeding people walking.
It's a good point. Currently, one of the uses of the current library is during the daytime, with moms with strollers in there
Right.
for various programs. You become kind of a momish place all over again from 20 years ago. And there was
Strollers everywhere, yes.
Maybe there's a, you know how the parking garages have.
Oh yes, so you're like an automated.
Lowers and raises, so they can just put their stroller in and it, you know, they
They
fill
put
out
on a book and it
riser.
circulates with a lot of, and when the stroller comes back, they have to leave.
Stroller corral.
It's like a B&H photo, the conveyor belt that goes
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Some of those would be hard to lift though. They're trying to get as big as SUVs, these strollers, so.
They are.
Yeah, I know. And
A
they
lot of
raise.
space. So I think that's what we're showing. We're showing a maximum size stroller in this box here,
That's
so,
not.
You're thinking about it.
thinking about it.
You
Sure.
got control.
So this is a quick image of the kind of design we had in mind. We are in very early stages, but the design we kind of chose is a kind of bracket or a canopy or sign element that kind of recalls a lot of the steel accents that are throughout the island. I'm
It's
thinking
on the
that
windows upstairs.
it's on the windows upstairs, yes. And so, you know, you can see in here, you can see what the change of adding sort of frameless glass so that there's a kind of highlighting of the thing, but it keeps the original geometry of the building intact. And then really it's just a simple frame. I mean, I think what we wanted to obviously be as minimal as possible in the way we kind of interview the building with respect to the original design. And then really focus on how those site improvements kind of set up a kind of welcoming entrance that can be used by the community as well. So the seat bench you can see, as you know, that's the original curb kind of pulled back so that you do have that space underneath, so you're not sort of forced out onto the street with your feet. And then one thing this does also is that slight grade change. This obviously safety-wise mitigates that. There's no need for a railing because it's actually planting in the area where the grade kind of changes around the corner. So we would want to sort of make that all traversable and, you know, trip-free and all that kind of stuff. So,
Kind of early to think about this. I think the bench that's a skateboard magnet.
right, so
You might wanna
skateboard,
put
you'd
some
have to
things
skateboard.
into the skateboard.
That is correct, yes, because that is, you're right, that's an ideal skateboard shed. So this is looking from the south. So the larger kind of canopy element becomes a kind of line, and then we do have this pushed out and coming down on the side, thinking we can get some signage from that direction because we're aware that obviously people are approaching, but having it be discreet. Working again with the kind of the red doors that have been added back that are part of the original design. We are a little concerned right now on this one, and I think I brought it up to Charlene that this particular red door might be an issue only because there might be some entrance confusion, but that's something we're looking at, and we'd asked if we had the latitude to paint that one door gray or one of the kind of colors of the building so that just to downplay the presence of it so people aren't going and knocking on that door and they fully recognize that as the entrance. And then, I mean, we're showing right now, as I was saying before, the actual entry, the glass entry box that we're inserting into the original location. We have another element that is actually on the outside of that, and we thought that there could be a sign element that actually is advertising the events that are happening in the library, like either by a digital display that would be actually on the outside, or by a kind of sign box that could be changed out. But that would be complemented. So this is kind of pushed out, so it's actually on the street, readable from, you know, across the curb. And then we also have a display inside that might have books on it or might have posters as well that is a changeable display inside the actual vestibule of the library.
There's people sitting on that bench?
Yes.
Those
are the skateboarders actually. But it's not skateboarding right
There
now.
are things you could put on benches to prevent.
Yes, there are. Actually, I have a picture on my phone, but I just took a picture of it. But there's little aluminum or stainless steel kind of L-shaped things. And
Yeah.
they definitely deter skateboarders because it's not fun to go on it. Once you put those things on, it's no fun anymore.
But you can still sit there without.
Oh, absolutely. So they're small, low profile. You can sit on top.
I'm confused with the entrances. So this is the main entrance, and then the other red doors are for,
The other red doors are still for the library, but they're within the community room. So
The secondary
that's
entrance.
the second red doors right here, and these are the doors in the entrance, the main entrance.
and that's how, in terms of to go up to the
No,
second.
to the second
No,
floor.
second floor.
That's
You come
somewhere
around where the
else?
Come through
where the
here,
old
Oh,
entrance
in
is.
the lobby right here, there's an elevator and there's a stair that
Okay.
goes up. Yeah. So they'd be
Right.
totally separate entrances. And then, I'm now regretting ending on this because it's not as fascinating, I think, but I don't know if I need to go through this, but we were also asking for, there's an AVAC terminal within this building. And it's actually, this is the small area there. And so that enclosure around the AVAC terminal is quite big. I believe that it was made large because basically this was a school that probably did have, it had 2 kitchens, probably generated quite a bit of trash. And so they needed trash storage, not, just for even like a day, probably was quite a bit. But what we're in doing the interior design, we're very cognizant of the need to keep an eye on the children and children's area. And one of the great things about this space is that you can pretty much see everything from, this is the main circulation desk here, so that should be pretty easy, but the one sort of small area that you kind of can't see is back through here. So what we're looking to do is basically take back some of the space within that AVAC terminal. This is the actual terminal here, this is the vent, and this is the door that presumably if the upstairs tenant was able to use the AVAC terminal, they would bring their trash through and then they would come through this door into this vestibule and then in here to use it. We're hoping that there might be a way of slimming it down so that the terminal is still accessible. There's still a 5-foot kind of area of ADA accessibility to that terminal, but not the copious sort of storage inside, in order to basically widen this opening so that, to the children's room. So, it's another
It's
sort of
interesting,
small.
because AVAC, usually the commercial enterprises can't use the AVAC, like the restaurants and things. I'm surprised they had one in there. The library be considered or the school be
I
considered.
never knew it was there.
I didn't know it was there either. I
There's a-
wonder if it was ever even used.
Well, the school
The
had,
school used it, yeah?
sure, they had 2 kitchens back there
Right, yeah,
Right.
two
for
commercial.
serving lunches and stuff. So if they were prepping meals, they needed access to.
Right, direct access to food and.
The schools might have had waivers
Yeah, they
because
must
they're
have
not,
had some waivers because it's a school.
because it's a school, it's not a commercial enterprise,
Yeah.
which are barred from using the AVAC system because the DSNY will not pick up their trash.
Yes. It's very hard to sort that.
And that's something I spoke to Jim about, but, this is just I wanted to bring, since we are coming, I thought that these are the things that have arisen as concerns or issues. that
Is there
we're
any
interested
kitchen
in.
left in there at all, or did the youth center take that kitchen?
It's all been removed.
Wasn't the youth center gonna do something where they were gonna use it from the other side, because they're on the other side of
The
it?
history of Irish.
Well,
They've got a kitchen now anyway.
Yeah, they do,
I
but
think
I
they
thought
didn't
they
get,
used that space for a new kitchen.
I think they didn't get the space, but I think they have
Yeah, their own
kitchens.
space.
In their own space, but
Yeah.
I thought they had taken some of this space
They
that
wanted
they
it.
considered theirs, but then it got it, okay.
They wanted it.
One question, I've never had a complaint against the public library's trash. Where are you gonna put your trash at night?
Well,
That's always a thing of our commercial tenants.
Mhm.
Where do you put your trash at night?
Actually, I believe that this should be adequate storage space for the type of trash. We've talked about how much trash they generate, and it's not
It's not.
Yeah,
not
it's
very
not
much.
school
How
lunches.
much,
So,
we have a library. They generate an amount of trash just like this
Yeah.
library. What do they do?
I don't know, that's very nice, I've never seen it.
Right.
I don't know where it got, I know they do have a back door, I don't know.
Well,
I think they have a commercial service, is that correct?
somebody picks
Yeah,
it
the
up.
carding, yeah, the carding service.
Oh, so they can't use the
I don't know.
commercial enterprises aren't supposed to.
Is this the end of the AVAC? This was probably the terminus.
I don't know. They-
Oh.
This was
No,
the
I
end
guess
of the
because
show.
it is one of the, yeah, probably the first buildings.
Yeah, because it was the end of.
Right.
See, but he doesn't want that much room.
Probably
so
very
he doesn't want much
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, well, landmark it.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas you'll
Sure.
find in this process, but on Roosevelt Island, everybody is smarter than everybody else.
Oh,
And everybody's an expert on everything. So you're gonna receive a lot of help.
okay, well, I would love expertise.
So, me, too, definitely.
Clearly, it's,
Maybe he's not the oldest though.
I'm glad you shared these plans with us.
Excuse-
You had a chance. to
Howard?
look
Yeah,
at
here,
them
let
in
me go
detail.
back to something a little more interesting, Terrence. Leave it on that
Oh,
instead
we
of
have
the
a question
AVAC
there.
terminal.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about the schedule for the library? And when you
One thing, I've been remiss. In the future, this is Rick O'Connor asking a question. This is for a tape. So, in the future, everyone, when you have a question, it's fine in this setting. So, just announce yourself.
Can you talk about the schedule for the library renovation? And also a little bit about the other uses of the interior space, other than the 650 square foot reading
Oh,
room?
sure, yeah, of course. Our schedule is roundly, we've already begun design, obviously. The design process is usually to the point where you have biddable construction documents is a year, and then construction would probably be a year as well. So, I mean, we might be trying to like shorten that a little bit, but that's a very round way of kind of talking about it.
Where's the money right now?
What's that?
Where's the money right now?
It's all committed in the bank account. My name's Matt Blood. I'm with DDC. I'm the project manager from the Department of Design and Construction. So the money's all been allocated by NYPL. In order to start the design process, it all had to be in an account.
Got it, which means that we're not in the hurry to spend money what we have.
It's all committed.
Thank you.
Not
That
going
was
anywhere.
just-
Yeah.
How large is this space compared to the existing library?
Oh, it's double the size.
That's good.
And actually, just the other aspects of the design. So this is that vestibule. Inside vestibule is from the entrance. Essentially, this area here is one big main open space, which is the general collection. It's kind of split into basically a general collection with reading areas and furniture interspersed between the shelving. Some tables for computer use. This area back here, is just a teen area. It'll have teen specific kind of material, and then also another table for computer use as well. This is a children's area down here in the corner, also with its own set of computers and obviously books and whatnot, and furniture for sitting and for activities, group activities that they do, story times and that kind of thing. This is the staff area in the very back, which is where book sorting and the two bathrooms that will be dedicated to the public for use. The building, because of the school, has an enormous amount of doors to the exterior. I mean, we have one here, one here, one here, one there, one there. I mean, they're everywhere. So another one there. So we're determining which ones are most advantageous to kind of keep as open, and others. I mean, we don't need all of them for egress. We would never need that many, but we would like to obviously engage the kind of exterior, just because I believe that's the way the design was really intended, especially for this building. It's really, you can see how this exterior space really is being fully engaged by the building, and that would just seem like a missed opportunity if we weren't able to make that happen.
Just on the date, you said like a year for this and a year for that.
Yeah.
Do you have a more specific date for it to be completed? Is it
Wednesday.
No, is it 2017? Is it 2018?
We've been at it for what, about 4 months now?
That's
3
right.
months?
So we have another 8 months of
design, and then we have a bid and procurement process, the legal review of the construction documents, the specs, everything, and then the project will be bid out. From the time that Christian is done with his construction documents to the time we usually award the job and start construction, it's about anywhere from 4 to 6 months, something along those lines. So I think we'd be looking at completion I hate being quoted on this, so don't quote me on it.
It's
But
on the
best
tape
case
right
scenario would probably be end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So about a year, 2 to 2.5 years.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
So we are hoping to move faster, but obviously we're bringing this to you today because the entrance was already previously approved by Randall's Island Operating Corporation, by NYPL. And what we found through schematic design is this approach to the design, putting the entrance on the northwest corner versus the southwest, is actually more advantageous to how the plan works. It's essentially a long rectangle with a couple of odd-shaped projections off the side. So our first sort of step is to try to get buy-in from your group here today, and then we can kind of continue to further the idea. However, if you guys don't think this is a good idea, we'll go back to the previously approved southwest entrance, and we'll continue designing on that. But we're moving pretty fast, and this is kind of one of our last hurdles to complete schematic design. We'll move into design development and then construction documents. So.
Great, thank you.
Following up on what you've said, we've had an opportunity through Councilmember Kalos to meet with some of you folks before and get community input, and it would be wonderful if some of these schematics could be shared with the community through Rick's blog, through the Main Street Wire, our hometown newspaper. I think that would be a real opportunity if you could work with us to do that. Also, the person responsible for that community garden probably should be brought into the loop too, to work with you, since she is an educator and might be fascinated about the opportunities here.
Right.
So I'm sure people here could be a liaison. I'd be glad to do it too.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity for a bureau committee to
There's
get
always
involved?
an opportunity.
You know, normally what we do is we have a public design commission review of a project like this, but we're not doing really on the exterior, and this is apparently a state-owned building. It's not a city-owned building, so we're not subject to the same reviews. Public design commission would automatically trigger community review. We have to do that before we can bring it to PDC, but as a courtesy, I'm sure we could bring this back after we finish schematic design, design development for a more full presentation with some interior renderings, talking about the plan first, and so we can set that up.
Given the unusual nature of the community with such a large senior population, disabled population, diplomatic population, it would be lovely to do that.
Sure, I think that's something we could definitely follow up with in a month or two, something
Does
like that.
community board have to look at it? I'm just curious.
I don't believe that we're subject to any community board review, but certainly we can do it as a
Now,
courtesy.
this is gonna be a ridiculous question since we're talking about a library where you're supposed to be quiet, but are you gonna have any of that, what's looping for people who are hard of hearing? Because we've been asked that if they're gonna have it for when they have lectures and things.
Yes, we'll have that in the community room.
You will?
Mhm.
Okay. Great.
I'd also like to say on behalf of the library, there's really nothing very special about the original southwest entry location that you see. It's something that we just sort of came up with. It seemed like a logical place before the design process had started, when we were just sort of in the lease negotiation phase with Roosevelt Island. And having brought Smith, Miller, Hawkinson, and Ewell on board, who we're very excited about having as our architects, and getting into the design process, bringing over Nicole, the librarian, and other people from the library services side and NYPL, and developing the interior, we're all very excited about this new entrance location. And it's a lot more thoughtful, and we think it would be a great benefit to the community.
I think it's terrific. What do we have to do to get it?
Just one more last quick question. It appears as though the second floor may be leased to a chapel and thrift shop. Will that affect at all your design in any way?
No, we've been working with Hudson, Pedram is from Hudson, and you're working with the thrift shop. And they've taken a look. I mean, obviously, we've tried to keep we thought this actually worked very well by separating our entrance and putting it more street facing and allowing basically this entrance to be primarily used by that second floor tenant for whatever. At that point, we weren't sure who the tenant was going to be.
That's the direct access into the elevator.
Yeah, so they have the
existing
themselves. Yeah, so there's the elevator here, and then a lobby and the sort of entry vestibule on that side.
We were initially talking with Hudson about the project. There's actually a set of doors that come into the library space from that vestibule outside the elevator and the staircase, and we have so many doors in this space that we were never going to be able to use those doors as a primary means of entry. And so having just another set of egress doors, we agreed to Hudson to just take it out entirely, so that wall's gonna be closed up. We'll have just a primary entrance and exit coming from wherever we decide, and then we'll have all these superfluous doors. If anything ever happens, people can just escape the building directly. But there's literally, what, like 8 doors leaving the space or something? There's quite a few, so.
So I just also the design, so part of the design was to try to keep whatever we were doing to indicate that that library was really the first floor slice of the building, and not have a vertical element that had some confusion about what was on the second floor.
And I think we ought to thank you guys for respecting the original design, because there's so much on Roosevelt Island, and I know people who lose architecture and all that, but we kind of love it, and I think it's great when you can work something into it.
I think this one of the strongest features of this space is the waffle slab ceiling. So we're really working with that to try to highlight it. I mean, you feel like you might get compressed at some point, but it is a really great space, and it unifies. None of you have probably seen it without all the partitions in it. So all the partitions have been swept, and it's really a grand space without any walls in it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to respect that and just highlight it as much as possible.
I want to thank you. The building was designed by Jose Luis Ser from Barcelona, and it's nice to see you're respecting it, because so much of the 70s architecture was going down the tubes.
Right.
And also you have a Dan Kiley garden in the backyard.
Right.
Doesn't look very good,
Right.
but our Dan Kiley, who's featured in one of the blogs today, was one of the famous landscape architects of the 60s and 70s. And it's amazing because, we just take it all for granted.
Judy, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Judith Birdie, president of the Roosevelt Island Historical Society, and I've lived here only 37 years. And I went to Barcelona and found an exhibit on Jose Luis Sert in the Museum of Barcelona, and I'm going to go home and look at the book and see what he thought of the space. But it's really nice to see this, and also to do something with that the stone wall, that area.
Right.
It really completes the building,
Right.
which otherwise has what appears like an arbitrary shape. So it's an interesting way of taking part of the exterior and making it interior. And we're excited about the possibility of having like story hour with the children outside in there.
Without the exterior, it looks like a lunar lander from a concrete planet.
No, Mr. Francis, I could ask what the sense of the committee about this plan. I'm in favor of these changes, especially since they're not intrusive of the street, which was the first concern. And they dovetail very nicely with the existing entrance, though it's a clear second floor access in any way. So do we have any cautions here?
Well, I know that Charlene had a few concerns. I think she's had some conversations with Christian on the matter, and I was not a part of those conversations, so you may be able to address that question better than I. But I also know that she wanted to get the consensus of the committee and a sense of what your response was to the design before she made drew any lines in the sand or took any firm position on anything. So, I know that there were certain things she felt were no-brainer, things that she could agree to easily, and others that she thought would require some further discussion.
Right. I think she also was very interested in obviously getting the input of everybody, and was one scheduled the meeting, so I think that was the biggest concern that I heard from her.
That, and also with the changes that you're talking about, where's the money?
The cost
because
was
it's
definitely
not here,
an issue,
right?
yeah.
Cost.
So I mean,
But
the entrance would be covered under the project.
Any changes,
yeah.
but
And in
whether
fact,
there's work that needed to be done to the stroller parking area or, so she was concerned that none of those obligations were placed on RIOC.
I think the only thing that we're really talking about at this point, I mean, the entrance, if it's moved from the southwest corner to the northwest corner, those exterior improvements would be part of the project. And then the question remains, if we do move forward with it, do we keep the proposed changes to the southwest corner, which is the ramp and the stair? We can still put those in, they'll improve that space and the circulation overall, but if we decide to delete it, it may actually end up being a credit, because it's work that's already been sort of designed and it's ready to be constructed. So.
And your budget incorporated
We aren't as far yet to have a budget yet, so we're still at schematic design. When the schematic design is complete, we'll have a budget for where we stand.
I'm sorry, but what I meant was you said that the funds have been committed.
For the
so
southwest corner.
We
For
have,
the
we have a
south-
budget
okay.
to actually work with, so.
Right.
We do have to obviously get the design of the budget, we're confident we can do that.
And you can do that within the funds that have been committed.
That is our charge.
Right, the cost of the new entrance could be defrayed by the savings of not doing the southwest one, the old one, which RIOC agreed to pay for under the terms of the existing lease. So if it's not done, there'd be a credit that could be applied.
I think the only other area we were really talking about in terms of improvements was the courtyard area to the south of the building. And for purposes of the meeting today, it's really just talking about the entrance, but the playground area that's sort of enveloped by the community room and the children's room, you can't really see it from Christian's photo, but the play equipment's a little tired. And probably an OSHA, like some kind of safety nightmare.
And I think the garden could use a little work.
But then also the seating too, that kind of comprises that sort of open V at the bottom. The timbers are pretty deteriorated too. We know that that's public space.
And
the park
buy it every day, we know.
But what I will say about it is very simple. It's very simply constructed. It wasn't expensive when it was built, and so the things that would need to be done with, I mean, we're interested mostly in making it safe, obviously. So
And attractive, or more attractive than it is. But
So-
it really is beyond the bounds of our project, pretty specific.
But part of what we would need to understand is any, what the approximate costs of any of these proposals that you're making, and while you're not asking for that today, you've put them on the table. And
So you mean what the cost would be to improve upon that area?
we
or-
would need to understand what the scope of the project, the work would be, and what you would be potentially looking, towards RIOC for in that
I mean, I think we
respect.
could
Is
probably
that
put some.
our area or is that part
Well,
of
the
this
public
area?
space is.
That's still ours,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, if you want, when we come back to present, we could put those
Yes.
numbers together.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, maybe like, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. Do you guys meet over the summer or not?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we can have committee meetings whenever, whether the board meetings or, yeah.
Currently, the most public use of that wall is to sit on the outside of it facing the fountain and the trees and all. And that's a nice place.
It's very beautiful.
So I hope we maintain that. Do kids play in that area at all anymore?
Well, there's
No,
another
the other playgrounds are
playground
there.
down on the other side.
I know that. They had them climbing bars in there and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
they do have the climbing bars near the slide. There's a slide and the climbing bars
Yeah.
here.
But there's such potential in that area if we just put our heads together and do
Well, my other
something
question
really
was-
nice.
Yeah,
The
it's,
A
so-called
little bit of our money.
well, right, there's just nothing contemplated in the current capital plan, so
But I think we gotta look into it.
we need to consider that in the next budget cycle. We need to understand what the
Oh,
scope.
we got 2 years.
The
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
community garden as it exists now.
Although,
Christine, well, I mean, she put it together, and I think the school.
Yeah.
Is it the school or, didn't the youth center have something going on? Somewhere back there?
She had worked.
Oh, Bonnie Sherman?
This is not Bonnie does that. Bonnie does.
Steve never took over.
Hey, how about one answer to my question, guys?
Christina's is behind Christina's
That's
is
Bonnie
indoor
Shirk's
courtyard.
area then.
Say that again, Judy.
Christina's is inside the youth center, you can't see it. This
Okay,
was
thank you
Bonnie
for
Sherman.
clarifying.
Bonnie's, yeah.
Exactly the answer. An answer to exactly the question I asked.
Another garden,
Shucks.
yeah.
I thought that was
Bonnie's.
Christina's.
No.
I thought Bonnie's.
It's Bonnie's.
Well, we're getting reactions to the plan presented now. So, I think that I like the idea of moving the entrance. I can see that if we make the northwest corner the primary entrance, then something could be done in the southwest corner that still makes it usable as a second entry that doesn't require the ramping perhaps. So, these are plans up in the air because we're the early staging of this.
Right.
So, my sense is that these are positive changes and making the space more usable. And
I agree.
That's 2, that's 3.
Why would you, I mean, it doesn't absolutely require the ramping, but do you have some reason not to think it would be there if it's been?
No, I'm not, I'm
there?
just saying it,
I mean, I hate to do this,
ramping
but
is
not doing it.
mandatory if it's the sole
Right.
entrance.
Right, right,
But if it's an optional entrance,
okay.
and for some reason, which I can't foresee now, cost becomes an overriding concern, there is some other concern I don't know, then some simplification can be made into that southwest corner.
Cost and or design, I mean,
Right.
even.
Right, so it makes the design and cost more flexible, that's all.
Well, it's community space.
Well, it's true, but it's also, it's concrete where there could be something else, for example.
If there's a budgetary constraint, that community space can be accessed from the interior of the library through the bigger front door. I think that's the point that
And
happens.
it's also 1 and 2 steps, so it's still accessible, but the ramp would be in the northwest corner, if it were necessary to do that, if it were desirable to do that.
So I have flexibility there.
So, I think that's, any further?
No, I think definitely the conversation has been extremely helpful, and